So it's now the end of July, sometime around the 24th, I believe. I'm down here in southwestern part of the state of Maine. We're about to go into this piece of property here that I've had permission to hunt on for probably close to 10 years now. We're going to do some summer scouting. Right now is a great time to have your cameras start to go out in the woods. Most of the deer have their first, their horns are truly now going to be close to what they're going to end up being. The main frame of the deer is probably pretty well established by now. So it's a great time to put out cameras. It's a great time to go in the woods and go back to, I use the Onyx program on my phone, and I use that in the fall, and I mark all kinds of scrapes and rubs and signposts, and possible, if there's an oak ridge or apple trees that are back on an old farmstead or something like that. I'll go back into those areas right now. I'll go in the woods and check the oak trees to see if there is any acorns growing on the leaves or on the trees up in the air. I'll go in and check the apple trees to see if there's apples this year, because things like that can change every year. And when they do change like that, head on in there and we'll go see what we're gonna see. Like I said, I'm not really looking for a new place. I'm gonna go back and just make sure that what I've known from the years past is still what's actually happening in here. So why don't we head on in there right now. So here we are walking in. If you see down behind me there, walking up one of the skid trails that goes into this cut in here. I can already tell the new growth in the cuts is wildly different than it was a couple years ago. So a couple years ago, all these jack firs in here were all, yay high to me, right? Stomach, chest area. Now look at them all. That's about 7.5, 8 feet. All right, so we've reached the point where we're just on this little side hill here. Brook's down to my right down in here, about 40 yards. But I don't know if you can see it real well on this camera, but right here is the trail, runs this side hill down to the left here, and again follows the side hill down through here. And like I said, you can see where their tracks were running right there, right down through here. It's not a super well-defined trail right now, but after 10 years of knowing this on snow and stuff, you can clearly see it. So we're gonna keep following it and see if everything's still the same in here. All right, so right up over this hill in here is where we're just showing you on that deer trail. That deer trail has now come down off the hill, and as you can see right here, it starts caving in the banks and going into the mud. There's probably a dozen sets of deer tracks right here. Again, this is right where the trail has been for the last 10 years. So I'm not surprised to see it, but you need to, like I said, you need to check, because there's certain things that are changing in here right now. Like the cuts are so tall, it's almost impossible to see these deer at any distance. So that's gonna change things. They don't need to be down in here by the brook anymore. They can stay right out in the cut and be completely hidden now. But this is a good thing to know that they're still using this trail. Clearly, as you can see, they've caved that bank right in, right there, and it's about to go over here and go get into it's going to cross the brook and go out into, so the 40-acre cuts on this side of me and the 60-acre cuts on that side. But that's where he's headed. That's where these deer are all headed, is back and forth in between these cuts. So, all right, so here's the deer trail going through the ferns. It's not like completely trampled down. but it's enough so that you can see that they're using this trail right here. So this is one of the things that any person in Maine that hunts is starting to get real familiar with, and this is called a signpost rub. And imagine that, it's on an ash tree next to the water in the wetland. This is how I found this spot. All right, so it was just over there by that rub, probably 50, 60 yards away. The trail kind of splits off there, goes across the brook, and then it also runs up into this big flat up in here. You can kind of see that out in there. Just a typical, like a little flat that runs along a lot of brooks and streams. And I found this, which I don't know if the camera's doing that any justice, but that is a good track right there. All right, I don't know if you can see this tremendously well, but hemlock tree right here, the low branches, and right here is the scrape. I'll bring the camera over after I get done talking here and show it to you a little better. But again, this is in a great big flat, probably, a couple 100 yards long, probably 60 yards wide. This is probably 75 to 100 yards from that big rub that I just showed you, the signpost. But I look for this type of stuff everywhere I go hunting. You can see right here, here's the licking branch, where over the years, they've chewed it down so much, they've actually chewed it off. A lot of times we'll get the bucks right here, and they'll actually be standing up on their hind legs and trying to pull this stuff down, rubbing their glands and stuff like that. But as you can see, there is already deer tracks right here, and they've completely cleaned out this spot here. So it would be right there. See this tree way up here, this tree way up in the cut? There's a ground blind right there. And that's where my father was sitting that morning 2 years ago when he killed that great big monster buck. But I came in here in April when I get sent home from work for COVID. I got bored, so I came out and said, well, it's springtime, great time to do some mucking around in the woods. And I had permission to trim a few of these little hemlocks in here, and I made a nice shooting lane, probably 75, 80 yards up over the hill. And so here we are, we're at the ground blind now. It's pretty weak looking right now. Basically all I did that year was I just went around this area. This is where the blind is. You sit up against that tree right there. That dark hole right there, that's the scrape. Right in that dark hole right there. So this provides, like I said, an elevation, but you can see how grown up this cut is now. Right up against these two trees over here. That's probably, I don't know, 75, 80 yards. Well, man, now probably 50, 60 yards. That's right where Dad's deer died when he shot it that morning. What we're looking for, touch base with the landowners. Jeff's not home today, so he's out working. But I talk to him all the time anyway. I know I'm good to go. But that's just some of the stuff I look for. Go in, check some of the shooting lanes, see if the trails are still being used, see if anything's different. Anything's different. That's the big thing in this area for me. Is there anything different? And clearly, other than it just growing like a weed, there's nothing different. So that'll conclude our summer scout video.